I used to rent a basement apartment in a quiet neighborhood in Ontario. It was cheap, close to work, and the landlord lived upstairs, so I figured it would be safe. About 3 weeks after I moved in, I started hearing noises at night. It wasn't the normal kind of house settling. It sounded like footsteps, slow, dragging footsteps, coming from the storage room connected to my place. The landlord had told me that room was off limits because he stored old tools and family stuff in there. The first few nights, I brushed it off as pipes or animals, but eventually the footsteps weren't just in the room. They started right behind my bedroom wall at around 2 or 3 a.m. It got bad enough that one night I went upstairs and knocked on the landlord's door. I told him I kept hearing someone walking around the storage room. He just smiled and said, "Don't worry about it. The last tenant said the same thing. It's just the house shifting." The smile he gave me didn't feel right. I didn't say anything else. A few days later, I found something weird. When I came home from work, the light in the storage room was on. The light I didn't have access to. The door was locked with a key I didn't have, but I could see a thin line of yellow light under the door. Later that night, at around 1:30 a.m., I woke up suddenly. The footsteps were back, but this time they didn't stop at the wall. They were in my apartment. Very slow, deliberate steps, like someone was trying not to be heard. I stayed frozen in bed listening. Whoever it was walked from the hallway toward the kitchen. Then they stopped. A moment later, my bedroom door handle turned. A slow, quiet jiggle, like someone testing if it was locked. It wasn't. I shot out of bed and yelled, "Who's there?" The handle stopped instantly. I flicked on the light and threw open the door. Nobody was in the hallway, but the storage room light, the one behind the locked door, switched off at that exact moment. I moved out the next day. A week later, the landlord texted me saying I'd left some mail behind. I told him to keep it. I ended up blocking his number. Months later, out of curiosity, I checked the rental listing. It said, "Basement apartment, newly cleaned, storage access included." That storage room wasn't on the original listing. And the landlord never said he added a second tenant. Last summer, my friends and I went camping at a provincial park. We're all experienced hikers, so wandering the trails at night wasn't something we were afraid of. On our second night, around 11 p.m., we walked a short trail that looped around a lake. We had flashlights and the moon was bright enough to see the path clearly. About 15 minutes into the walk, we saw someone ahead of us. A man, walking the same direction we were, but really slowly. He had no flashlight, no backpack, nothing. Just a dark hoodie and jeans. We didn't want to startle him, so we kept a respectful distance. But he kept glancing over his shoulder at us. Not in a normal, casual way. More like he was checking how close we were getting. Eventually, he stepped off the path and let us pass. We nodded and said hello. He didn't respond. He just stared at us with this wide, flat expression. We walked a little faster after that. 10 minutes later, we reached the far side of the lake, the halfway point of the loop. That's when we saw him again. He was standing on the edge of the trail, facing the water. Same clothes, same posture. There was no way he could have gotten there before us. Not without running full speed through the dark forest with no light. We passed him again, quietly. My friend whispered that maybe there were two guys dressed the same, but the way he turned his head slightly toward us as we walked by, I knew it was the same man. We were relieved when we finally reached our campsite, but around 3 a.m., I woke up to my friend shaking my shoulder. "Do you hear that?" I listened. Footsteps outside our tent. Slow, deliberate footsteps circling us. We held our breath. The footsteps stopped right behind where my head was. Then, a quiet exhale, like someone breathing slowly through their nose. We didn't move. After a minute, the footsteps faded away and the forest went silent. In the morning, we checked the area around our tent. There were footprints in the dirt. Heavy, deep prints from boots, not our own. We reported it to the park rangers. They told us nobody else was camping in our section of the park that night. To this day, I still don't know how that man managed to appear twice on the trail, and how he found our campsite in the dark. I work at a fast food place on the edge of my town. It's open 24 hours, but after midnight, there's usually just 2 people on shift. One person on the grill, and me running both the counter and the drive-thru. Most nights are dead quiet, and honestly, I like it that way. But one night last year still messes with me, and I think about it every time I work a late shift. It was a little after 2 a.m. when I heard the drive-thru ding. I looked at the monitor and saw a car slowly rolling up to the speaker. It wasn't anything weird at first, just a black Honda with one headlight out. The engine sounded rough, like it was barely running. I did the usual script. "Welcome. What can I get started for you tonight?" There was a few seconds of silence, and then this voice came through. Except, it didn't sound like someone ordering food. It sounded like someone trying to whisper through a smile, like they were forcing the words out between their teeth. He said, "I don't know what I want. What do you want me to have?" I joked awkwardly like, well, we have combos." But before I could finish, he cut me off. "Do you want me to come inside instead?" Still in that whisper, smiling voice. I told him no, the drive-thru was fine, and asked if he could just tell me his order. The guy didn't say anything for a long time, to the point where I thought maybe his mic cut out. But then he said, "I've been driving around trying to find you." That's when I felt my stomach drop. I'd never met this man in my life. I tried to stay calm and asked him what he meant. He didn't answer the question. He just said, "You work here every night. I've seen you." I muted my mic immediately. My coworker came over because he saw my face go pale. I told him someone was messing with us, maybe drunk, and to stay close. When I turned the mic back on, the guy had finally pulled up to the window. And when I say this, I'm not exaggerating. His window was already rolled down, and he was leaning toward mine, staring directly at me. He looked like he hadn't slept in days. Wide, shiny eyes, sweat dripping down his temple even though it was cold out. I didn't open the window. I just gestured 1 second so it didn't look suspicious. He didn't blink. He didn't even move. He just kept smiling, this tense, stretched smile like his face was stuck that way. Then he said, through the glass, loud enough for me to hear, "You didn't say what I should eat." My coworker whispered to call the cops, but the guy's car was angled in a way that blocked the entire drive-thru lane. If he snapped, I didn't know how fast he could get out or what he might do. Eventually, I slid the window open just an inch, staying back. I said, "Sir, if you're not ordering, I need you to pull forward or leave." He leaned even closer, bending down so his eyes were level with the bottom of the window. He said, "You look different up close. I thought you'd be happier to see me." That was it for me. I closed the window fully and my coworker called 911 from the back. While he was on the phone, I kept watching the man through the glass. He stayed there, grinning, engine sputtering, staring at me with this expression that somehow looked both excited and furious. The dispatcher said an officer was only a minute away. Maybe the man saw us talking, or maybe he noticed lights approaching in the distance, because all of a sudden he jerked his head sideways like he heard something. Then he sped off, tires screeching, engine backfiring, almost hitting the wall as he turned out onto the street. He didn't take any food. He never gave a name. He just left. The cops looked at the footage, but the missing headlight and grainy angle made it almost impossible to identify the car. They told us to call again if he returned. He didn't come back that night. But about a week later, when I walked out to my car after a shift, I found a crumpled fast food receipt tucked under my windshield wiper. It was blank except for one thing, printed in the customer notes section. I know what you want now. No car around. No cameras caught anything. I reported it, but nothing came of it. I still work late shifts sometimes. And every time I hear that drive-thru ding after midnight, I feel my entire body tighten up, waiting to hear that whispering voice again.